The skies over Europe once belonged to the Luftwaffe. Their fighters, fast, disciplined, deadly, ruled the air from France to Poland. American bombers trying to reach German factories often never made it home. Entire squadrons vanished into smoke and cloud, torn apart by enemy aircraft before they could even see their targets. But then, something changed. A new sound began to echo across the skies, a deep, confident roar unlike anything the Germans had heard before. It came from a sleek, silver aircraft with long wings, a powerful nose, and a red tail that glinted in the sunlight. The P-51 Mustang had arrived, and within months, the balance of power in the air and the fate of the war in Europe began to shift. When the United States entered World War II, its bomber strategy faced a deadly flaw. The U.S. Army Air Forces believed the B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator could protect themselves with heavy guns. But reality proved otherwise. Flying deep into occupied Europe, those bombers became easy prey for German Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. By late 1943, the loss rate was catastrophic. Some missions saw 1 in every 5 American bombers fail to return. Crews knew the odds. They called the deep penetration runs into Germany milk runs to hell. What they desperately needed was a fighter that could fly all the way to Berlin and back and still fight like a champion. At that time, no Allied plane could do it. The British Spitfire was a legend, but its range was too short. The American P-47 Thunderbolt was powerful, yet it guzzled fuel. The Allies had plenty of courage, but not the right machine, until North American aviation came along. In 1940, before the U.S. had even entered the war, Britain approached North American aviation to build fighter planes. The company's president, James H. Dutch Kindleberger, boldly claimed he could design a better fighter from scratch in just 120 days. It sounded impossible, but against all odds, his team delivered. They created the P-51 Mustang, a radical new design. Laminar flow wings for reduced drag, a bubble canopy for better visibility, and a sleek fuselage that sliced through the air. It was fast, agile, and beautiful, but it had one major flaw. The early versions used an Allison engine that couldn't perform at high altitudes. Over Europe, where dogfights raged above 20,000 feet, it was nearly useless. Then came a twist of fate. British engineers decided to experiment by fitting the Mustang with a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the same powerhouse used in the Spitfire. The result? A transformation so dramatic that even test pilots couldn't believe it. The P-51 now flew faster than 430 miles per hour and could climb higher, dive steeper, and travel farther than any fighter before it. It was the perfect blend of American engineering and British innovation, and it was about to change everything. By 1944, the new P-51D Mustang entered service with the U.S. 8th Air Force. Its long-range fuel tanks meant it could finally escort American bombers from England all the way to Berlin and back. For the first time, bomber crews saw friendly fighters alongside them through every mile of their deadly journey. German pilots, once confident, suddenly faced an enemy that could chase them even over their own airfields. The Luftwaffe began to lose its best aces, not to mechanical failure or flak, but to swarms of Mustangs appearing from the sun. In one mission after another, U.S. bomber survival rates climbed. The tide of the air war had turned. But the Mustang wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol of adaptability and courage. Pilots formed deep bonds with their planes, naming them after wives, hometowns, or songs, like Old Crow, Glamorous Glen, and Miss Helen. They spoke of the aircraft as if it were alive, a trusted friend that brought them home through clouds of fire. One squadron, the 333rd Fighter Group, better known as the Tuskegee Airmen, flew red-tailed Mustangs that became legends. They earned respect from bomber crews and commanders alike for their skill and discipline. In the face of racism and doubt, they proved not just that they could fly, but that they could excel, changing both the war and history itself. Spring 1944. The Allies were preparing for the most ambitious military operation of the century, D-Day. To succeed, they needed air superiority. The Germans still had powerful aircraft, but by then their skies were no longer safe. Mustangs swept across Europe in relentless waves, destroying enemy supply lines, trains, and airfields before D-Day even began. When Allied troops landed in Normandy, the Luftwaffe barely appeared. The P-51 had done what no one thought possible. It had neutralized one of the most feared air forces in the world. From that moment, the war in Europe began moving steadily towards its end. Factories that once built German bombers lay in ruins. American bombers roamed almost unopposed, and the Mustang flew as their guardian angel above every mission. By the time the war ended, over 15,000 P-51 Mustangs had been built. They escorted bombers on more than 200,000 missions, shot down nearly 5,000 enemy aircraft, and changed the face of aerial warfare forever. German aces later admitted the Mustang broke their morale. But the Mustang's legacy didn't stop in 1945. It went on to serve in Korea, in air races, and in museums around the world as a living symbol of what human innovation can achieve under pressure. Even today, when one flies overhead at an air show, the sound turns heads and stirs hearts. The deep growl of the Merlin engine echoing across decades of history. The P-51 Mustang was more than an airplane. It was the bridge between defeat and victory, a union of necessity, genius, and courage. In a war defined by destruction, it represented creation, an idea that something designed with passion and precision could change the course of history. Every time a Mustang takes off today, it carries not just the roar of its engine, but the memory of those who built it, flew it, and never gave up on the dream of coming home. Because in the endless sky over Europe, the P-51 Mustang didn't just fight a war. It gave humanity the power to rise above it.